What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Couple on Fire podcast. Tonight, we're going to talk all about the fine line between humor and hurt in your marriage, and that's coming up
right now.
Welcome to today's show. One of your hosts, Josh, here with the beautiful Miss Christy. If you've never joined us before, we are a couple on fire. No, we're not literally on fire. We are just on fire for God and for individual, personal, and marital growth. And so if that's something that interests you, please make sure you hit the subscribe button, like button, follow button, wherever you find us. Also, if you're on audio, maybe you're on Apple, maybe you could hop on there and just subscribe to our podcast on that as well. So today, though, we're going to be talking about something we've never talked about before. And I think it's something that's subtly involved in a ton of marriages. I would say most marriages, and it's extremely destructive. But before we dive into that, before we even get into any of that, what's on your mind?
See, I wasn't prepared.
You didn't even know what I was going to do right then?
No.
Every time I surprise you?
Almost.
That's pretty.
Isn't that sad?
No, it's exciting, actually. You're like Dory. Like
I am like Dory.
Anything exciting? Anything great that you want to share with our listeners, viewers?
Not really. We've had some busy weeks. For those of you that don't know, we have a
Hello.
French bulldog that is our world's. Her name is Stella.
Yeah.
And about a year ago, she had to have, like 6 months ago.
Yeah, 6 months.
She had to have back surgery because she became paralyzed. And so
She ruptured a disc.
And so we've had some scares with her lately that have been crazy. So we had to put her on crate rest a couple weeks ago because she tweaked it. And then she went in to get a vaccine. Her vaccines just updated. She's had the vaccines before, right?
Yeah.
She just needed to get them updated. We just gave them to her last year. It's only been a year.
And she died.
And no, she didn't.
She didn't die.
That's not funny.
Well, she's not dead, so it's...
Oh my gosh. So she had a severe allergic reaction, and it was, of course, after hours, and her face swelled up. She looked like, if you've ever seen the movie Hitch with Will Smith, and he has like this severe allergic reaction. And he looks up in the mirror, and he's like, whoa, and his lips and his ears and everything is just crazy. Her face looked like that. And we had to take her. We gave her a Benadryl. It wasn't helping. We had to call an emergency vet. Well, where we live, there are no 24/7 emergency vets. They're like 45 minutes away. So
minimal.
Yeah. So
and she's a Frenchie, so which means they don't breathe through their mouth. They breathe through their nose. And if you know anything
And
about
her wrinkles
Frenchies, they have
swell
little tiny slits. So they have a hard time breathing anyway. And when her nose started swelling, we're like, oh, she's not going to be able to breathe. And so we had to act fast. Luckily, when we rushed her in, and they took her in the back and loaded her up with a bunch of Benadryl anyway.
And she's in here right now. She's underneath my feet laying on my blanket. So if I remember, because she's comfy now, because I don't want to disturb her.
Yeah. Yeah, she's a queen, man. That's for
sure. But that's really all what about you? Is there anything that I'm forgetting that happened?
No, that was the most exciting thing that we had happen.
Yeah. Celebrated Stacy's birthday.
Yeah, our friend Stacy had a birthday. We got to go celebrate that. That was great.
Yeah.
So other than that, life is life. So, all right. I don't know about you guys, but when this episode is being aired right now, we're going through like some mad times of heat in Michigan, which is crazy. And I know the whole country, I think, is going through it right now, but man, it's been crazy here. And then on top of the heat, there's like Noah-sized rain, like the flood,
like
is
from
here.
Hurricane Beryl or something.
Yeah,
coming
but we're
all the way to Michigan.
It's amazing to me. So anyway, yes, Rob, yes, Frenchie's snort, brother, like all night long in their sleep, and our dog sleeps with us, and sometimes on my pillow, and so you can only imagine how that goes. And that's for a whole other episode.
It is,
because when something is as cute as her, it's like you just let her get away with whatever she wants.
Yeah, she's so
and it's
cute.
True. So we want to talk about something, called the fine line between humor and hurt in marriage. And something that we've noticed over the years, and we'll kind of get into it a little bit, but is that off-kilter humor where you're kind of picking at or poking at your spouse. It's almost like those things turn into passive-aggressive jabs. And then when something gets said, like, it really hurt my feelings, be like, what? No, I was just joking.
Yeah.
Right? I was just joking. When we all know better, then that's really what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're going through a season in life where, things are great, it's like we can have regular fun or we can accept those types of pokes in a more fun way. But when things get a little more sensitive and hard, it's like, I don't know, those get amped up. And we've seen people do it to each other in front of us. It's very uncomfortable, actually.
It's super uncomfortable.
Yeah. And it's like something that we vowed early on in our relationship, because both of us were married before. If you've ever been following our podcast, this is our second marriage. Yeah. Well, sinners. And so we realized like there's a lot of things we did then that we don't want to do this time around, and we have not. And so that's something that we just don't do. Like we laugh a lot together, which we're going to talk a lot about, but
it's important to have fun.
It's
but
and that's one of our
that,
points.
Yeah, I don't want that to get missed in this podcast.
But there is a healthy way to do that.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what we want to talk about. So let us know down in the comments. Is this something that you find that's in your marriage? Maybe that's something that goes on back and forth between your spouse. Maybe you guys have a healthy way of doing it. Let us know, because I'm really just curious. I would say the majority of people that we know seem to do a little bit of this every once in a while. So I'm just curious. So before we even dive in there.
And what I think happens too, like what you alluded to, is it starts out in the beginning of the relationship, I think, all poking fun and games.
It's all good.
But then what happens is there's some over time, there's like some things that have been swept under the rug or haven't been addressed. And so then they turn into passive aggressive because it's an actual like little bit of truth in there. Mm-hmm. And I just want to like get it out type of thing.
Yeah, for sure. It's a jab.
Yeah.
Instead of pokes, it becomes a jab, and which becomes super unhealthy.
Instead of pokes, it becomes a jab.
Yeah, just and you can't take them back. And let's be honest, right? Once those words come out of our mouths, we can say we're joking. We can say all those things. We can even say we're sorry if we're willing to admit what we did. But it still goes into our spouse's memory and feels like it's an attack on them, right? Like now I can't be as vulnerable or open about whatever it was, whatever the jab was. It's easy to get into a relationship and, start taking jabs out of each other about maybe one person is not good with directions or has a bad memory, or
he takes jabs at me all the time about that. He just called me Dory earlier.
There we go. Right. And it's easy to do that, right? And Christy just calls me stupid all the time.
That is a lie.
She does it all the time. It's really sad. That's why I want to talk about this, because she's mean.
That's not true.
She says really hurtful.
I can be mean.
She says really hurtful things. But it's anyway. So there's things that we do that we say, right? So we want to talk about a little bit about that. So our first point about this is there's a big difference between intent and impact when it comes to our words.
And Josh and I had to work through some of this at the beginning of our...
we flooded, by the way. Rob.
Everywhere around us flooded.
Yeah, it was gross.
People were doing kayaks and stuff down streets. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And in yards and everything else. But...
yeah, it was crazy.
But we had to talk about, like, we have to be responsible for our words. And I don't know if this is going to be the best time, emotional safety, but yeah, I might want to talk about it then.
Giving it away.
I know, I'm sorry, but I can always use this point whenever. But when Josh and I first got together, something that I used to say to my boys consistently, like actually joking around, as I used to call them punks, like little punk, and Josh and I, we were at the beginning of our relationship and something was happening. And I was like, yeah, you punk, like completely kidding. But to him, that was like a trigger from like his old marriage. That was something that was used to be derogatory. So to him, that was a derogatory term. And so he did say, hey, can you please like never call me that again? Like, I don't like that and everything else. And to me, even though my intent was completely joking, the impact on him was something that was not my intent. So what's important to me? For me to be able to say the word punk, or for him to have the right impact and actually have fun with what I'm trying to say? And so I never have called him that or used even joking, because even if I try to be passive aggressive, like, oh, don't make me call you a punk, kidding, quote unquote.
Yeah.
That's still being passive aggressive. Once we learn stuff like that bothers our spouse.
Yeah. And I mean, let's be honest, right? So what a lot of times happens, I think, in relationships, what'll happen is Christy will say that, I will say that I didn't like that. And she'll be like, well, that's your fault, not mine. I didn't have any intention behind it. My
Why do
intention
you
was
let it bother
good.
you?
Why do you let it bother you? Right. And it's like, that's like so unhealthy and toxic, having that way of thinking, that if our partner in crime here is triggered or feels less than when we use or say something against them, then don't do it then. Like, I don't understand the problem in that.
Yeah. I don't either.
Like, if there's anything we're going to do, we should cater to the emotions of our partner. Now, okay, we can take that and sink way down at the bottom of the ocean, right? And we don't have to go overboard with that. But I think there is an important level of saying, you know what, your feelings and how you feel about this does matter. And Christy has never, ever, ever said it, not even one time ever again, ever, because she knows that is something that I don't like, because punk also was always followed with the B word when it was used and when it was called towards me. And so I do find that to be a very toxic thing, the way that I internalize it. And for her, she's like, I don't care how you feel about it. Right. If you don't like that, then I'm not doing that. And so intent versus impact makes a difference.
Yeah.
Because our intention can be very, 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 very
innocent.
good and innocent.
Yeah.
And the impact, though, could be extremely toxic and dangerous to our partner.
Yeah.
And so those things matter.
Yeah.
Right? Intent versus impact. That's to start with. Number 2. What about emotional safety?
Yeah, so it kind of, like the example that I just used, kind of leads into that too. I think it's important for your spouse to always just have the emotional safety. They always know that nothing's ever going to be said. Nothing's ever going to be said on purpose to purposely hurt me and hurt him or hurt me in a joking manner. A lot of couples that we've seen will poke fun or make fun. So I think there's a big difference between making fun and poking fun. And I think poking fun can be innocent, like to poke fun at one another. But when people end up making fun of one another or trying to make each other less than, what happens a lot in marriages is worse. This is supposed to be our best friend. You guys live together. You should know the most about one another more than any other human being on the face of the planet. So you really learn each other's emotional insecurities, I guess, that you would learn about the other person. And you're trusting when you go into a marriage that you're being vulnerable and you're opening up to one another, and that you can trust that your spouse isn't going to be more emotionally damaging to you and take these vulnerable things that you're sharing with each other and then use that to make fun of you or make jokes, especially in front of other people. I mean, that is extremely shaming and can really damage the trust within your marriage, which ultimately hurts you both.
Yeah, I want to use your example, though, that you said in the beginning about humor, about memory, right? And she's like, oh, yeah, you're making fun of me,
He calls me Dory.
Right. But so let's understand the emotional safety and how this is so important. So I have taken the time over the years to make sure that Christy knows that she's emotionally safe with me. And so what that does is that grows that circle out really wide, where I can say something about her memory, and she knows that I'm not insulting her or trying to, attack her. She knows that, right? She knows she doesn't have a good memory, right? She knows that, right? Trust me, she knows it. And so sometimes when she remembers, she knows it, but she knows that she doesn't have a good memory. And so I can do that. And that's not really even, that's probably a poke fun, I guess, in the way that you were saying, right? Not make fun. But you have to put in the work of having the emotional safety first to be able to have the right to do something like that.
But what we have to learn is I don't have an insecurity about that either. So
which is true.
If I was really insecure about my memory and then you started saying things like that to me when you knew I was insecure about it, that's hurtful.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair, yeah.
Regardless if I should work through a healing to not be insecure about it, we all have insecurities about something, and we shouldn't, right? The bottom line is we shouldn't. We should find our security in God, and we should understand that we're not perfect, and all of us have things that are not perfect about us. And so we technically shouldn't have any insecurities, but that's not humanly possible. We all have insecurities. So once you find out what your spouse's like little insecurities are, you shouldn't use them to poke fun of it. I don't have an insecurity about my bad memory. Number one, I know I have a bad memory. That's why I have a lot of fail safes in my life to ensure that important things don't get forgotten. So I don't care. I think Dory's cute, and she ends up being really loved, by Nemo and his dad. I forget his dad's name.
Isn't Dory blue? Is she blue?
Yeah.
Yeah, see. Christy's wearing blue today.
I forget
just like
his
Dory.
dad's name, which really is sad because I watched Finding Nemo probably 55
I don't know. I
times.
think Walter, but we know that his
No.
name's not Walter. So if you do know,
Correct.
say down in the comments, Mark.
Marlin. It's Marlin.
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 What's up, Mark? I found that taking my spouse's temperature before having fun banter is important. She may be having a struggle that I have no clue about. And that's spot on, dude. That's kind of what we were talking about just now. That is exactly right. He also says, I like to apologize immediately if I have made her feel bad. No lingering.
Yeah.
It really helps in the moment. It does. Like, wait a minute, I read the room wrong, right? Us guys, we're very good at that. Like, we are really, really, really good at reading the room wrong. Like, this isn't the time or place. Like, okay, sorry. I'm the guy that always steps over the line, like, but I like to not go all the way over. I like to tiptoe over it, right? Christy's rolling her eyes, right?
He doesn't stop. He doesn't stand over there. He's like, pump, pump, like real quick.
But not about you, right? I don't do that
No.
to you. I do it. I'm just really good at doing that. But yeah, so emotional safety, right? So you got to make sure that you're ensuring there's emotional safety before you have even any type of verbal fun with your partner. Number three. What about healthy humor?
Well, and I think this Mark's example is really good about healthy humor because taking your spouse's temperature, what if your spouse has had a really rough day? Or what if they have felt attacked from different angles, maybe members of their family at that time, or maybe especially if in your blended family, they're feeling sensitive about something a stepchild said or something the kids said to each other, and it's making them question their parenting or anything like that. So something that maybe usually is harmless that you guys can joke around about is not okay for that day because maybe they're really beating themselves up in that moment and that would really hurt them just then. Being conscientious of that is good.
Yeah, it is. And it's exactly what Mark was saying, though. Like, it's almost like we have to set up bumpers, for bumper bowling in our relationship and saying, hey, this is the healthy area of play. This is where we can have fun. So in the beginning of a relationship, something that I had always done, I've always done it with my kids. My dad always did it growing up is I always like to scare. I'm good at it. Okay. I can catch you and I can, and just freak you out. Well, I had done that quite a few times to Christy. And finally she looked at me and she's like, you have to stop doing this. Like, I know you think it's funny. It's not funny to me. Like, it actually scares me. And then it's like, I don't feel right for a while after. Like, it really like messes with me. And then I'm like, okay, well, I got it. And I don't. And so I would, and it's been years, but then my son come upstairs. This was like a couple weeks ago. My son, Josh, comes upstairs. He's 22 years old. He comes upstairs and Christy was in the bathroom.
Blow drying her
hair. And he looked at me and he's like, I'm going to scare Christy. And he said it as he's walking by me. And I'm like, oh man, this is not going to be good. And he didn't do the boo. He did the and I mean.
So loud.
I think she emptied her bladder.
I did. It
it was
scared
bad.
Me so bad. I almost started crying. I screamed
so
loud that I almost started crying. But the thing about it is I really don't like to be scared because I'm easily scared. Like Josh could sit here right now and all of a sudden just like, boo! And I would it's like I get scared so easy that I don't use alarm clocks because it sets the wrong mood for me the rest of the day. I sleep in my watch.
And it
my watch gently starts vibrating and it wakes me up. I mean, it doesn't even take, it's a few seconds and I'm awake and turn it off. I need to be, even growing up as a kid, my dad or my grandma, they would come into my room. I would get up when I lived with my dad 3 or 4 hours before I had to get ready to school because that's when he was leaving for work and I didn't want to have to get woke up by an alarm clock. So I'm like, please just wake me up when you're leaving. So it's just, I hate being scared. I hate it.
You do, and that's why it's important to have healthy humor, though. Like, you have to have healthy humor. And healthy humor is not something that one person thinks is good and the other person does not. It's really important.
You both have to think it's fun.
You both have to think that it's okay. Like, it's like, all right, I don't mind. This is funny. You think it's funny. It doesn't hurt my feelings. It doesn't insult me. I don't feel belittled by it. But you, like, something that Christy and I do in our marriage, and we make sure to do it, is we have fun in our marriage. We laugh in our marriage. Like, the one thing I think I'm fairly funny. My wife thinks I'm hilarious, which is perfect, right? And that's how it's supposed to be, right? That's exactly how it's supposed to be. And so I know the things that I can say and it's never insulting things or people. I know that. Like, insults are not humorous to her. They're just not.
No.
Right? They're just not. She's just not that person. Insulting something I can find is hilarious. She does not. So
I just think it's mean.
Yeah, and we just don't do humor that way. We do humor in a very different way, and it works for us.
I can't even explain it. So I talk about him when he's not around. A superpower, and I'm sure other people have the superpower too, but a superpower that he has is he is funny. He is funny. Like, I'm goofy. Like, sometimes he'll look at me and be like, your humor sometimes just doesn't make sense to me.
Your humor makes you laugh. That's your humor.
Yes.
Yes.
I think
Crack
I'm
yourself up.
hilarious.
You are. You do.
I do something and I'm like rolling on the floor laughing, and he's just laughing because how I'm laughing.
Yes.
You know, which is funny. But his superpower is he is just funny, and can make people laugh, and he is comical and witty and all these things, but not at the expense of anyone else. And I can't even describe it because I'm like, it's just, I don't know. It's like such a superpower. Just fun things. I mean, we can have the TV on and we can turn the volume down and people's lips are moving, and he's like making up whole conversations like, oh, well, I would like to go take a poop now. And, oh, well, make sure you whip your butt, type of thing. And people are just cracking up while he's doing.
Always thought that was funny.
Yeah.
No, it's witty humor is what it is.
Yeah.
It's like, you kind of think through it kind of humor. But yeah, it's important that we do that. Like, have healthy humor within your relationship, but it's important to have humor. This isn't saying we can't have fun in our relationships.
Right.
Please do not get that wrong. All right.
Have fun.
For our final point is we have to have positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement.
Yeah, so you should sit down and talk about sometimes about the things that, hey, like, I thought that was a lot of fun, or I really liked it when we did that, or hey, when we were laying in bed the other night, just looking up funny memes, or you could lay in bed at night and look up funny dad jokes or, things like that just to make people laugh. That way you both can say, yeah, I thought that was funny too. Or when he's like, hey, man, I really think it's awesome when I scare you. I don't. Okay, I hate being scared. Right. And then figuring out what that happens. I know that some people like to be scared. They think it's...
Some kids that we know love being scared.
Yeah, like Benny, our grandson.
Yeah, loves it.
Like, I think that he's 2, is going to like cry, like, rah, and he's like, ah, but then he starts laughing like he loves it. I'm like, that is psychotic to me. Like, oh my gosh.
There's some psychosis going on with this kid.
I know. Some people just like to be scared. So I'm sure that's a lot of fun. But this couple that we've seen on TikTok before, I think the guy is a cop or something, but him and his wife set up like balloons hanging in the house.
Yeah.
And wait for the other person. They'll be hiding and wait for the other person to walk into the room. And then they shoot this balloon or stab this balloon and all this crap falls over them. And then they shoot confetti out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I would not think that's fun. That is getting like mess everywhere all the time. Yeah. It's crazy. But just finding what works in your own relationship. That's what makes your relationship like more intimate too. Like, you guys can get your own little inside jokes, you know, and have your own like sense of humor and this groove that you fall into. And don't get me wrong, some couples that poke fun at each other, I may be sitting there sometimes being like, oh my gosh, like that is super uncomfortable. Maybe that's neither one of them are insecure about those things, and that's just the way their relationship works. I don't know.
It's hard to say, but I would say the majority of people know. Somebody's getting insulted is what ends up happening in the middle of that. But so positive reinforcement. So I want to look at positive reinforcement just on a different side of this coin. Good. So I think positive reinforcement to me would be, if we want to be able to have healthy humor and be able to joke with our partners in a way, we have to make sure that we are also adding in positive reinforcements on things they do feel insecure about. Oh, right. Like, let's make sure that we're encouraging them in all these different areas of their life. So, when we are having fun with our partner, we don't think like, we've always laughed about like grabbing each other on the sides and stuff. Some people are like, do not do that. Like, that makes me feel bad about who I am. Mm. Well, not us. Like, we don't do that. Like, grab my junk. Grab the junk, Christy says, right?
Chunk.
Yeah, grab the junk, right? And the junk. Right. But it's, the funny thing is, it's like, it's different for everybody, but we are comfortable because we encourage each other in the areas that we're insecure in. And I think that right there leads into an opportunity to be able to have more fun and leeway within your relationship.
Agreed.
Carrie Ranky. Let me see if I can read all this. girlfriend. Oops. Took it down. So my husband has to remind me sometimes that I'm emotionally safe with him. Okay. Especially people who have been through toxic, abusive situations tend to take any comments to heart because of the passive aggressive comments from the past. Yes, I agree with that. It's so important to communicate your emotional needs and speaking truth to your spouse.
Well, and this reminds me of
Amen to
something
that.
I wanted to say earlier and I forgot.
Ba-boom.
That some people, we have to recognize where we came from too. So if we saw modeled from our parents growing up, maybe unhealthy behavior of like one of the relationships that I witnessed growing up is that I don't want to list exactly who it was, but it was a mom and dad figure. My mom was married 3 times and my dad was married 5 times. Okay. But some kind of parental figures in my life. The man would be looking at a TV or something, or if they were driving somewhere, see another attractive woman and be like, oh my gosh, like what I could do with that, to the woman and
To his wife.
to his wife. Right. And I don't want to say like which one it was. It was
Sure,
parental figures in my life.
Yeah.
And I just remember seeing that growing up and the wife not saying anything and just kind of like whatever. And when I come into another relationship, like if I started dating or something like that, I think I would be ultra sensitive to that or watching for that. Or maybe we thought that was okay. Maybe if I
normal.
was a guy,
Yeah.
maybe if I was a boy and I saw that, maybe I thought that was normal or that would be cool. And then I'm going to enter into a relationship with someone and be joking, quote unquote, like that with my spouse. That's hurtful. But we have to recognize what we modeled too. We have to heal from that. We have to maybe shed some of that baggage, because even if we think something's healthy and our spouse disagrees and that makes them uncomfortable, we have to work through that together.
Yeah, something that we do during our blended event, which is coming up this November, is that part of what we do is we talk about our ex-spouse isn't our new spouse. And so, which means that we have to learn how to do a lot of healing in that. So we don't hang all this baggage on our new spouse, which is exactly what Carrie's saying. She's saying, hey, I've had some baggage in the past, and communicating through it in my current marriage helps me work through that. And that's exactly right. We have to be willing to communicate through these things, because what is easy to do is shut down, right? Both ways. Let's say that I make a comment towards Christy that Christy doesn't like, right? And she goes silent because she didn't like it. She doesn't say anything to me, but I know. And so I now know that she didn't like that. So I go silent. Right. And so now we're not actually talking about it. So when things never get talked about and time goes along, she thinks that's really how I feel. And I want to degrade her and I want her to feel that way. And in me, I'm like, she apparently didn't like that, but I'm just going to use it next time that I'm really upset because I know it works. And then it becomes a super unhealthy thing and it just grows way out of control until she's like, well, I'm tired of you taking jabs at me. Now I'm going to start taking them at you.
Yeah.
And it just becomes communication within a relationship, which is what I think we see sometimes between people, and we think, is this their normal?
Yeah.
That it can't be a normal. It can't be normal. Like, if it makes me uncomfortable and her uncomfortable, trust me, we've been through some things. Like, it's probably not normal. And so we just say,
or it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be normal, right? You're normalizing something that shouldn't be, right? So you have to ask yourself, are you walking the fine line between humor and hurt in your marriage? And if you are, utilize some of these 4 things that we shared today, and get back to where you need to be.
Yeah.
Words matter. They last forever. You can't take them back. And so the one thing we want to do is have fun in our marriage, but the last thing we want to do is hurt with our humor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't hurt with humor.
That's right. All right. Thank you so much for being here. We are here every single Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern live. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.